0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzalina, and like me, joined by a guy who needed his own therapy dog last night. Regzy Boo, Big Bear. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I don't know why I let myself do it all the time. I try and say that I'm not going to get as upset in the middle of April. I can't help it, man. Every day I say it, and every time I feel like this is for the World Series or something. Every game I feel like that.
Here's kind of what. Listen, if I'm nothing but supportive, but I feel like I've been permissive of this behavior, and I think it's time for me to hold you accountable. I'll still be supportive and work you through it, like I do whenever you text me your angry rant. But I think accountability-wise, I might just start screenshotting it and putting it on the Twitter page and the Facebook page.
That's okay. That's fine. I think it's really because you're my only outlet for this. So you kind of just catch all the strays because I can't talk to my kids about it yet. They're just like, what are you talking about, Dad? Why are you angry? My wife just rolls her eyes at me. And so my brother doesn't care. My brothers don't care that much. My dad doesn't watch baseball, So it's there's very few people I can text my ridiculousness to. And I know the instant that I've done it. As soon as I press send, I'm as he's going to send, I can literally see and hear the tone of your voice in the text messages just because we've known each other for so long. Yeah, I know exactly how you sound. I know exactly what your face looks like as you're typing back to me. So I think you do it knowingly, but I just know that I know when I reach a point where you're just Jesus, Regs, shut up, man. It's April. I know it. I feel it. And listen, I don't take that with any animosity. I just take it like you said, as you being come on, man, settle down.
I think last night's a perfect example of it. And we always have our back and forth during the games. And I started with they battled, and you talked about Brogdon having that one bad at bat there. And I said, and you mentioned they just aren't executing when they need to. And I said law of averages. And look at what happened tonight. Yeah. Law of averages. It somehow works itself out that in a season full of baseball games, these are the things that happen. The bad teams sometimes beat the good teams, and and these are two good teams. The Mariners are a really good team. Yeah. It's not they're a really good team. Yeah. They have a ton of talent up and down their lineup. I told you last night that Gonzalez was going to give them absolute fits. He doesn't throw hard. Every pitcher in baseball throws hard now, except for him. And Brad. Nobody throws 89-mile-an-hour fastballs. Not even Brad Hand throws 89-mile-an-hour fastballs. I mean, this dude's just out here throwing 89-mile-an-hour four-seamers. That was throwing hard back when we were kids.
Yeah, right.
This is a whole different level of frustration for a lineup, and they just couldn't figure him out. They could not figure him out. Tonight, though, was really good to see. A really nice bounce back, because you go up 2-0, and then Walker has his meltdown, which could potentially end up being not a meltdown but an injury, and he got screwed in the inning with the strike 3 call to Crawford, or not to Crawford,
to Rodriguez, right?
The
next batter, yeah.
And then the next pitch ended up over the cutout in left center. So when you think about it, a 4-2 game and a 5-2 game feel very differently. But the Phillies, Kruk said it's better to get down early or get down big early so you have time to claw back. And they used every inch of rope to climb back in that game.
Yeah.
It took them till the bottom of the 8th to finally take the lead. But again, law of averages, and they found a bunch of holes, bunch of singles. I would have liked to see more there. And I think eventually when Jake Cave is not hitting, you're going to see more there, because that's going to be Real Muto. That's going to be potentially Schwarber. Like, you're going to see more there because it's not Jake Cave. It's a professional at bat. And I want to root for the guy, but it's just so frustrating right now to watch him. It really, really is.
You can't really root for him when your only job is to lay down the bunt.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you missed it twice.
Yeah.
It's like just put Pache out there to how
about it?
Why?
If you're gonna bunt, just let Pache come out, because
exactly.
In terms of defense, you're gaining.
Yeah,
and Cave's fine defensively, but he's not Christian Pache.
No,
Pache.
He ran down some balls in that game that were like unbelievable,
and had 2 hits and had 3 balls off the bat at 98 miles an hour exit velocity or more.
Yeah,
Kevin Long, you belong in the Hall of Fame.
I was about to say, are you allowed to sign people to lifetime contracts? Like, can you just be here until you retire?
Like, don't let him go anywhere. I mean, the idea of what he's done with some of these guys, and we're going to talk about one of them here in a few minutes, kind of went off like track a little bit. We weren't going to start here, but now that we're into it, let's just go. Also, before we dive in further, I wanted to start with this, and we just dove right. The Phillies getting a service dog to train for the next 2 years, perhaps the greatest. That's how we opened the show, and we were supposed to talk about that, but we went right into it. Major, welcome to Phixated Nation.
Yeah, that was the Instagram post and the Twitter. Yeah, all the pictures were great.
Did you see the video?
I did see the video with him signing the contract and the press conference and stuff.
Come on.
See, this hits you like this is right in your wheelhouse. This is
a
like
dog and baseball?
Clicking all the buttons. Clicking all the boxes.
Baseball? Come on. And not just a dog, it's a lab. Like one of my favorite types of dogs. Like, when you think about breeds, like, it is husky and lab. I've got a mix of that upstairs right now. And oh man, yeah. So welcome, Major. We love you. And
like
you know
they
what?
said,
Next
1-0 with him.
on
the roster.
Next time Regz is struggling, we're gonna send Major over to you.
Yeah, I'll need him, because obviously I irrationally get angry, like I said, for no reason. But again, we're on this journey. I know I need to do better.
Why we do it? That's why we do the podcast. That's why we do the podcast.
It's true. If I didn't have this outlet, can you imagine what the text messages would be like?
Oh my gosh. There'd be nights where I'd have to lose my phone.
I'd get that notification. Mike Azalina has silenced all notifications.
Which I've never done, by the way. I've never silenced notifications ever.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, I always felt badly doing it as a principal, and I've just not gotten into the habit now. So back to tonight, just a couple of things that I feel are important to discuss. JT hit a couple of balls really hard tonight.
Yeah.
In big moments, including that 8th inning. Nick Castellanos.
Oh my goodness.
So back.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, dude, can you imagine what it's going to feel like when Bryce is hitting in front of him? Because you've got to decide. Right now, teams can be like, all right, we can get Kyle Schwarber out.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
I don't know.
What are you going to do with Bryson Stott, who's hitting 360, Trey Turner, who's going to be fine, Bryce Harper, and then Nick Castellanos, who's like leading the league in every single category that there is?
Yeah, and then after that, like the National League leader in home runs last year.
No, probably not. Probably the National League leader in everything else that Nick Castellanos is not a National League leader in. Brandon Marsh.
Could be Brandon Marsh. That's right.
And then Alec Boehm, and then the National League leader in home runs.
That's absurd if Schwarber bats 7.
And JT hits 8.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
And again, like, who knows? Topper has a lot of options there, but like, can you really move Brandon Marsh right now with what he's doing? Can you? No, probably not. So but back to Nick Castellanos for a second. Just like, The guy is unreal. The homer in the first, rips a single in the left, rips a single in the right, runs the bases well right now. Like he DH tonight, but he's playing solid defense in right field. He leads the National League in assists. I mean, dear Nick, welcome.
Yeah,
you've finally
good
arrived.
To see you, buddy. Thanks for coming.
It's good to have you.
Yep.
Cheers, bro.
Thanks for coming. I don't know. I think this is just what we all wanted to see.
Yeah.
Like the guy who every time he hits the ball, it sounds like a firecracker going off.
Yeah.
And that ball that home run was crushed.
Oh, yeah. And Gilbert's good.
Mm-hmm. And what was it? 98? Like,
yeah.
And caught up to it and absolutely barreled it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's what you've been talking about since we signed him. Like hitting the ball to that side with authority, but also pulling the ball with authority.
Right.
Which he's doing right now. Like the single he hit to left field was an absolute rope. It was on a rope.
Yeah, so was the next one to center. Like that one was like, again, just a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been phenomenal. And I don't know what they'd be doing without him right now. Because JT has been scuffling. And, Bomer was in a big slump until tonight with the breakout hit there. Stott, even though he's, what I say the other day, like 2 for his last 18, is still hitting like 360, which is wild. So, Schwarber clearly not himself right now. They have the injuries to Hall, but guys like Sosa have stepped up. Christian Pache is, seriously, like tip of the cap. And Brandon Marsh, guys like that. Where would they be without Marsh? Where would they be without? I'll tell you, they wouldn't be a game under 500. And Regz, if they get to Sunday, leaving Houston right around 500, and I don't mean 3 games under. Like I don't want them going there and getting swept out of Houston. But if they can leave there a game under or a game over, like I'll tell you what, all things considered, for as bad as this first month has gone with injuries, for as bad as it's gone with base running, for as bad as it's gone with starting pitching, for as bad as it's gone with certain guys in the lineup, being there and only a few games out of first place, because the Braves, if they ended up losing that game, they'll be 4 games out, which it doesn't seem comprehensible right now.
No, it doesn't. And I just think the biggest thing that you have to take away, tonight, 1 home run, everything else was singles, which is wild when they have 13, 14 hits.
Oh, they're going to hit. They're going to hit.
And like, if you talked about the slump that JT was having, the kind of Turner being a little bit off still, and Schwarber having his typically slow start, you would have thought this team would have been nowhere close to 3 games out of first place.
Right.
Especially, and just compile on that, like that's just exponentially worse because Bryce isn't in the lineup and you lose Reese and all those things that we already know happened. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know if you want to go into the sort of Dombrowski thing what we were happening, but like I just want to talk about Brandon Marsh for the rest of the podcast. Like I could.
So let's do this.
Let's talk about it.
Let me quickly say that the Braves did win, but that honestly, like we haven't played the Braves yet.
Yeah.
So I as much as I don't want to do this in April. I don't want to scoreboard watch in April. I think you don't want to let it get too far away from you.
Right.
So this win was huge for a lot of reasons. You still hold all your head-to-heads against the Braves, who played their first real good team of the season this week and got swept. So, we'll see what happens when we get there. But let's
and
talk
again,
about
a team
that.
of like you said, a good team in the Mariners who went up 5-2 on you in the second inning
against a really good starting pitcher.
Typically, this is where our offense literally shrinks into a shell.
Right, and I think we're gonna have to see what comes tomorrow. Hopefully, they carry this momentum. They take the win. They take the series, because it's all you got to do. You just got to win series. And you're back at 500 going to Houston, and you owe Houston a little bit of, revenge. after
a little bit
what happened in October. So yeah, let's talk about this with Dombrowski, but let's start with Marsh. The question that I texted Regz the other day, and I've talked about with a few other people, is, we've been really fortunate to have Dave Dombrowski. He's really changed the complexion of the front office and the vision and the opinion of the fan base about the franchise and organization as a whole.
Yeah.
So when you think about Dave Dombrowski, he's brought a lot of guys here. He brought Nick here, right? He brought Trey here. Matt Strahm is here because of him. There are a lot of Edmundo Sosa is here because of him.
Schwarber.
There are a lot of guys. What's that?
Schwarber.
Schwarbs is here because of him. Yeah, there are a lot of guys who have gotten here because of Dave Dombrowski. And you can pick any of them. I mean, I don't know where this rotation would be without Matt Strahm right now and what he's done. But when it comes down to it, there are probably, Gregory Soto's been great. That trade looks phenomenal right now. Neither guy that we traded has an OPS over 550. An OPS over 550. And Soto is out here dealing every night.
Yeah, looking exactly what we wanted him to be.
Right. So when it comes down to it and you think about the best acquisition that Dave Dombrowski has made, all those names go into the bucket. But I think the two that I believe are at the top of the conversation are the aforementioned Brandon Marsh and his first acquisition as the Phillies president of baseball ops, Jose Alvarado.
Yeah.
Who is Regz, who I believe is the best reliever in Major League Baseball.
I think, right. Absolutely.
Inarguably.
Yeah. He's been on
what they say in 22 strikeouts, no walks.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
When he came here, walk was legitimately part of his name.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't his middle name. It became his first name. The guy walked everybody.
He had to go to AAA. It was so bad.
So I guess the question now is like, and it might be too early to tell, but who's the best acquisition of the Dave Dombrowski era? We've had him 3 years now?
Yeah.
Right?
I think you could make the argument for either one of them. I am going to lean Brandon Marsh only because I'm not taking anything away from Jose Alvarado because he's been unbelievable. It's just Brandon Marsh is going to be our center fielder for 9 more years, right? Jose Alvarado will eventually not be that good. That's just the nature of relievers, and it's just how it goes, right? It is what it is. Like Brandon Marsh very well could be an all-star caliber center fielder for the next 8+ years for this team, who were
so good. He's so good.
Who were in desperate need of someone in that position who could play every day. They didn't even have to be we weren't even looking for an all-star. We would have loved to have gotten some. But to get this guy in a mid-season trade for one, and again, Ohapi got hurt again, which obviously sucks because we're not wishing ill on him at all. He was actually playing pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
But to get that guy in a mid-season trade who was one of the top prospects, not only with the Angels, but I think in the majors.
Yeah. Here's a top 50 guy.
Yeah. You have solidified a position, a huge position of importance for every team. Everyone talks about you want all your stuff up the middle to be where you put your time in. Your catcher, your pitchers, shortstop, second base, center field. I think you're pulling hairs when you're arguing who is better. I just think if this is who, again, not leading the majors in OPS, Brandon Marsh, but even if he's 20% less of this, just the confidence in which he's hitting lefties and staying in at bats and not chasing the high fastball anymore. It's unbelievable. We literally could have an all-star in center field for the next 8, 9, 10 years. Like, that's how good this guy is and how young he is.
I think, you know, I thought about this earlier, and I was talking about it with a friend of the show, Adam, and his opinion was pretty similar to yours, which was like, it's hard to argue the guy who does what he does, like Brandon Marsh. You know, watching him play center field is a pure joy.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, what's funny is that there's a better center fielder on the roster, and Brandon Marsh is like still what I consider to be the best center fielder in the division. And funny that the best center fielder in the division's name is Brandon, by the way. It's just a different Brandon. But I watching him, the jump on the ball, the route to the ball, everything, all of it.
Yeah.
It's so natural, it's so instinctive, and he, you know, I was fine with just getting that and him hitting 9th.
Yeah, right.
You know, and all of a sudden, dude's hitting 5th.
Yeah.
Last year in the World Series, Brandon Marsh was hitting 9th. He is currently hitting 5th, and not because out of necessity, but just out of pure ability to be there and succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree, but I also want to make a case for Jose Alvarado, if you'll allow me.
Of course.
Because while we've been craving the guy in center field since Shane Victorino, we've been craving the guy to come in and get big outs since Brad Lidge.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's more dominant than Brad Lidge.
Oh, his stuff is like...
I know what Brad Lidge did, and I know people are going to roll their eyes and they're going to be like, oh, perfect season. Like, I hear you. But Brad Lidge was never this dominant.
No.
He just wasn't.
No.
He was never this dominant. Brad Lidge was not with the Phillies anyway. With the Astros, maybe.
Yes.
But with the Phillies, he was very good. He got some really good breaks, and I immediately go to the game where like Shane Victorino threw a guy out of the plate.
Yep.
In the 9th inning with 2 outs that would have lost the game or tied the game. But I just feel like he's the most dominant reliever we have had maybe in my lifetime. I don't remember a guy that I've been able to watch come out of that bullpen. And I just like, I had no doubt he was going to get Rodriguez tonight.
Yeah.
I had no look. I could have told you JP Crawford was going to go off in this series. We all could have told you JP Crawford was going to go off in this series. The same way we said CJ Cron was never going to make an out. Because all we're doing is talking about CJ Cron becoming a Philly. So of course we couldn't get him out. JP Crawford was it, no doubt about it, surefire Hall of Famer this week. I knew he was going to get out. I knew he was going to get Rodriguez out. I knew it. I have not had that feeling about a Phillies reliever. I've not. The only time I doubt Jose Alvarado is when Topper decides he's going to bring him in after using him and sitting him down and putting him back out. Otherwise, it's strike 1, strike 2, see you later. So my case for him is simply just, I think he was probably even less revered than what Brandon Marsh was. I think with Brandon Marsh, they knew they were getting a guy who could go out there and play center field against right-handed pitching and do it at a high level. And they would see what happened with the bat.
Yeah.
With Alvarado, it was, look, this guy throws hard. He's got really good stuff. And if we can harness it, and that's a big if, he could become dominant.
Yeah.
So I think the case is there was a little more of a low floor, high ceiling, whereas I feel like Marsh's floor was a little bit higher than Alvarado's was.
I think
because Alvarado, you could fall on your face.
Oh yeah, I think.
But the value is different. You didn't give much up for Alvarado. You gave something pretty good up for Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, and I think that's just like the other side of the longevity part of it that I talked about. It's like you're absolutely right. I think the ceiling, like again, having one of the best, a top 5 reliever in baseball is unbelievable and something that this team hasn't had, like you said, in we can't even remember how long.
Right.
You're not going to hear me argue one way or the other, because
I actually think I agree with you. I know people want us to argue more, but I actually think, and I agree, that as soon as the end of this year, we could be saying that Brandon Marsh is the best acquisition that Dave Dombrowski's ever made.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a long shot. But I also would say that Jose Alvarado is probably right beneath it, and not by a whole lot. I think what Marsh provides long term, like you said, and what he's doing already after 6 months with the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, we do have arguably the best reliever in the game, followed by a future Hall of Fame closer who is finding it right now. Like finding it.
Yeah, and not
that inning tonight was nasty.
And again, not in innings that he historically has been any good at. Historically, if you put Craig Kimbrell in any other situation besides a save, you get absolutely nothing.
That 8th inning tonight was absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, again, what did it go? It went Ortiz. We got to mention.
We got to tip the cap to him. 2 innings.
We are making it official. We are an Ortiz podcast.
We are a Luis Ortiz podcast.
Just put the stamp right. Put the stamp on it.
Luis Ortiz and Reed Blankenship.
Add him to the list. Ortiz has been unbelievable.
He's been really good. Yeah. And again, he might be one that eventually word gets out, tape gets out, and all of a sudden Luis Ortiz is not great.
We'll take
anymore.
it right
but
now.
When we need him, while Strahm is not out there, he's been phenomenal.
And again, they've sat Soto down to let him pitch another inning.
Yes. And now Soto's available tomorrow.
Exactly. Just think about that, though. How good Soto has been.
Yeah.
They literally let this guy go back out there.
Mm-hmm. And you have Soto available tomorrow. You have Brogdon available tomorrow. You probably have one of Kimbrel and Dominguez available tomorrow because they did not throw a lot of pitches. And again, Sir Anthony's finding it.
Right.
So the bullpen right now, not a problem. The offense right now, some nights a problem because they don't come through in big spots.
Yeah.
Other nights like tonight, they're going to hit plenty. It's just going to be it's going to be frustrating because they're going to be nights they don't come up with the big hit. They're going to have guys on base all the time because it's what this lineup.
It's getting a little bit annoying seeing like 10, 11, 12 hits and like 2 runs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to happen some nights just because it's what this team's going to do. And it's frustrating. But I think what it's going to come down to, Regz, is this pitching staff has to stop walking, guys. They just have to. It's really that simple. It really is.
Why do we keep having these innings?
Well, I do think tonight was the forearm because he just all of a sudden lost it.
Yeah.
So
what was it?
Hopefully it's not bad.
Who tweeted it? Who tweeted something? Because somebody tweeted right after the game. I think it was here it is. Lauber. Example for Thursday, Phillies are initially unconcerned, according to Rob Thompson, who labeled the early exit precautionary.
Okay.
So apparently it wasn't so bad that like he's like, listen, I can't, you got to get me out of the game right now. It's like, well, if you're feeling something, we're not going to risk it getting worse.
Right.
So let's get you out of there.
I don't know if they have any days off coming up though, because if you could, I would suggest trying to skip him.
Yep.
But they need to figure out the starting pitching and fast.
Because again, I think when I think about it, the biggest thing to me is that like we're seeing who Bailey Falter is. This is who Bailey Falter is. He's gonna go out. And there's going to be some games where he looks pretty good, but ultimately he's probably going to give up 3 to 4 to 5 runs a start. It's just how it's going to be.
Yep.
Strahm, again, has been really, really good in his time, but they're not going to push him to like 100 pitches or 90. Like he's going to go 5 innings, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But those are days where you're going to be stretching a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And you hope that he can just maintain this sort of 3 runs-ish. You know, you just hope that he can maintain that.
I think what they should try and do when Ranger gets back is use Falter and Strahm together.
Some people, I've also heard that maybe using Strahm as sort of the back up to Ranger. So
Yep.
you let Ranger get a good 3 or 4, and then you throw Strom in for another 3.
I was thinking
to not push Ranger,
I think
when he first gets back.
I think that's fair, and then maybe rotate that over to Falter when the time
I think either one of them is good. It's just something that I had heard that.
Okay. Well, hey, we've spent a lot more time here than we anticipated, but before we jump, let me tell you the pitching matchups after. Well, tomorrow the Phillies will send Matt Strom to the mound in an afternoon game at Citizens Bank Park against George Kirby, 2-1 with a 3.57 ERA this year. I don't know much about him. And then they head to Houston for the World Series rematch. And these pitching matchups are kind of fun. Aaron Nola and Framber Valdez.
Okay. That guy.
And then Zach Wheeler. Oh, I don't feel great about this, against Christian Javier.
Oh, God.
Who was
unhittable?
The night that you were, yes, unhittable is correct. And then Bailey Falter and Jose Urquidy, who they did face in the playoff or in the World Series, but they were already destroying the Astros at that point. So it'd be nice to, again, any road series is a nice road series win. Going there and beating one of those two guys to start the series would be incredible.
Yeah, it would.
But I think it's time we move along. Let's jump to the team who is awaiting their next playoff. We're not going to, you know what, Regz? Maybe we don't spend a whole lot of time. We try to do a series preview before the next series starts, but we can at least touch on this.
Yeah, I think for sure we'll do that.
So the Sixers obviously swept. It was a fun Saturday afternoon game. They went Joel-less.
Yeah.
But Paul Reed was unbelievable yet again. Just unbelievable. And then Tobias Harris was really good. Really, really good in the closeout game. And so was Melton again. Like that acquisition can't be overstated. It's been incredible. So a nice win, because usually that game 4, especially if you're sitting your MVP, usually goes to the away team. Like usually goes to the home team. The team who's down.
We talked about it in game 3 too, with it being such a weird game.
Yeah.
That in a lot of the past, it's 2-2. You just lose these wacky games on the road.
Yep.
And that's how it goes. And then these things get prolonged for no reason. Exactly. What did we talk about? Get out of there as quickly as possible. You didn't do it, avoiding a Joel injury, unfortunately. But now you've given him the maximum amount of time to try and recover from it.
Which brings us to the Joel injury. Because I don't know that we got to spend a whole lot more time there. Like, the series was what it was. The Sixers did what we wanted them to do, which was go out and win.
Yes.
And do it in a way that made us feel good. And they did. They did. There were moments we didn't feel good, but overall, that series felt really good.
Yeah, I think we need to temper a little bit of expectations. The Brooklyn Nets, after they traded KD, did have a less than 500 record. So
they were like 14-15 or something like that.
Yeah. So again, it wasn't them being like a 6 seed isn't necessarily like what you might see from a typical 6 seed. They still had a lot of wings. Yeah. Could throw a lot of weird things at Joel. We saw that. Like, he wasn't scoring a ton of points in a lot of these games. But the other guys were stepping up, and you just hope that the confidence that they got from that series translates into this next one, because you need every single guy.
Right.
Again, we're assuming that the Celtics sort of get their shit together and pull this out against the Hawks, but going up against that team, like, everyone has to be playing well. You can't have the games like you did in game 3 against the Celtics. Like, they'll blow you out. Yeah.
They'll blow you out.
You have to play your best against a team like that.
Well, so right now the Celtics 3-2. We're hoping that Joel comes up okay.
Yes.
That's the hope. Regz, I gotta tell you, I think he's fine.
You think they kept him out on purpose?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I think he would have played if it got to a home game 5 just to make sure it ended. I think that they're playing it up a little bit. I think he'll play when game 1 comes. I think he'll wear a brace.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to play.
Interesting.
I don't believe that Joel is going to miss a game in the playoffs this year. I really don't. I think he's going to play. I think Joel's number one goal is to beat the Celtics. We've heard him in interviews say this isn't a rivalry because we never beat them.
Yeah.
I think if there's a team he despises in the league, it's the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He makes that pretty clear.
So I don't know. And it's, again, I know I get my rose-colored sunglasses on. I'm not going to deny that, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and deny it. But I will tell you this, that to me, this feels like, it just feels like the type of situation where you do it because you know you're going to win the series. And you have to have an injury next to it. You can't just sit.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, obviously there's something there. And again, let's hope that they sat him out to be like, we're not going to let this get worse against a team that we're up 3-0 on.
Right.
We're not going to go out, put you out there when they know that you're hurting a little bit.
Yeah.
And, make sure that nothing else bad happens. I could see that. Sure.
So,
and you got to hope that also that maybe the Celtics are losing a little bit of confidence the longer this Hawks series goes. Yeah. Again, they made it to the NBA Finals last year. They're not a team that is unmentally tough. But they certainly, after that game 1 where they won by 30, I bet they didn't expect it to be 3-2. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, we know this Hawks team, man. Like, we know the kind of fight and annoyance that they cause.
I know. Yeah.
They're like gnats.
Yeah.
So it's 3-2. And I don't know if you saw the clip of Tyrese Maxey's interview today.
No.
But Howard Eskin was like trying to get him. He was trying to goad him. And as Howard does, he was asking like, well, who would you rather play? And Tyrese was like, I don't know. Like, we're preparing for both teams.
Yeah.
Like we're not really cheering for anybody. And he was like, so you want to play the Celtics? And Tyrese was like, well, I didn't say that. Like, that's not what I said. It's the playoffs. It doesn't matter who we play. They're going to come with it.
Yeah. And
I think that's a good mentality.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think that's a good mentality to have as this Sixers team, to understand that you very well could get a Hawks team that's coming off a big series win. Now it's going to take what I would consider a small miracle to win 3 in a row against Celtics.
Yeah.
But it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's your mindset, if it's truly your mindset, and I'd like to think it is. If your youngest player has that mindset, I'd like to think your veterans have that mindset. I think the difference for me this year is PJ Tucker and just the championship mentality that he's brought. There was something I saw the other day that compared what the Sixers have done so far to what the Bucks have done and where they're heading and all of that. And I just think his presence has been a difference maker for them. And I think it's done a lot for guys like Maxey and guys like Embiid. Embiid wanted dogs. They went and got a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need him to be a dog if they play the Celtics.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this right now. There's probably going to be some sort of scuffle between him and Marcus Smart that ends up in Marcus Smart getting ejected. So and here's what we're going to do, Regz. We're not going to spend a whole lot more time here. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to wait and see, and we'll do a preview pod as soon as we have the opponent.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do a Howard Eskin. Who do you want?
I mean, the Hawks.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't want
this.
I don't.
I do. I want Boston.
I don't. That team's too damn good, man.
I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't want the detractors to come back and say, well, you didn't beat Boston.
I don't care.
I do.
I'm not worrying about that.
I care.
Well,
I care a lot.
Boston should have handled their business.
I dealt with it with the Eagles, and I'm not going to deal with it again with the Sixers. I want to beat the team that has haunted us for like 5 years. I want Joel to get his win. And that being said, I know how good they are. I know how good they are. I know Jason Tatum. I know Brown. I know that Al Horford 50 against us. Like, I get it all. I get it all. But I kind of want them.
I think you're nuts, but all right. That's fine.
I kind of want them. So we'll see what happens. They play tomorrow night. I won't be paying attention because the NFL draft is. So that's what I'll be paying attention to. But before we jump into the draft, Regz, we are idiots.
Yeah, this is a big L for us.
Big L. Big L. And I can't believe I didn't get a single text about this.
And just the fact that neither of us thought of it in the moment at all.
Actually, I might have gotten one. Let me look here. Give me 1 second. I might have gotten one. I might have. And I'm looking. I'm scrolling. I swear that this guy said something to me. And I'm not seeing it now. No. Nope. Didn't happen. I was wrong. I need to apologize, Regz.
We can apologize. This is not only on you.
I mean, but I plan the shows, dude. Like we get on here right before and I say, here's what we're about.
Yeah. But listen, I could think, I have a brain. I could have thought of it and brought it up, and then you would have been like, oh yeah, we should talk about that.
Our franchise quarterback signed a mega deal, the largest in NFL history. And we didn't talk about it.
It's good stuff.
It's so bad.
That's probably one of our worst ones.
I mean, we have had some moments, but
this one's up there.
Jeez, Regz.
Yeah, this one's up there.
Was bad. It was bad. So, listen, Jalen Hurts. I don't know if you caught the press conference yesterday, but once again, Jalen has a zinger of a line. Like something along the lines, and I'm not going to directly quote because I don't remember the exact wording, but something along the lines of like, yeah, money's cool, but championships are what I care about. And
I believe it was the money's nice, but championships are better.
Okay. Yes. Still not my favorite Jalen quote. It is still always and forever going to be the Super Bowl quote of I had a purpose before anybody had an opinion. So much of me wants that tattooed somewhere on my body, but he trademarked it and I want him to sue me. So the Jalen deal is 5 years, $255 million. And again, like this is a guy who has not just worked his way to be the starter of the NFC champions, but worked his way into the hearts of the most difficult city to play in. And to me, he deserves this contract, Regz.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to hold off because this is going to be, I've decided this is my fix.
All right.
Tonight.
All right.
But I want to ask you your thoughts, and I'm going to run through the little bit, just the facts of it, and then give my opinion during Phixated.
I just think we knew it was coming. I'm happy that it's done, that it's not for whatever reason, if it was going into the season or whatever else, I'm glad it's done.
Right.
Howie again works some voodoo magic that he's only getting paid like $6 million this year and then 13 after that, and that doesn't really get into big numbers for like 3 years from now. Again, I don't know how he continues to do this stuff, but he has left room to continue to take advantage of this guy's prime. And I just think, I think it shows, we talked about on this podcast the entire time before last year in our previews and our sort of like leads up to the season. We just wanted to see improvement from Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. There's still plenty of room for that. But this guy has proven that big games and big moments do not faze him. Like, the guy went into the Super Bowl and put up a historic performance against looking across the field at the guy who might be considered the greatest to ever play the position by the time he's done. You know?
Yep.
Our guy in his second full year went up against that guy and turned in a historic performance with one blip. And I don't know. I just think you always talk about this, and I agree with you all the time that the mentality that he has and the way he leads the locker room and how it's never about how many yards he threw for or how many touchdowns he scored.
Yeah. Or what show he was on the week before.
Makes no difference.
Yeah.
That guy just wants to will lead by example and wants to show up and have everyone care about winning as much as he does. And if that's the guy leading your franchise, then kind of no matter who comes here, everyone's going to know that when you come to the Eagles, or if you want to sign with the Eagles or play for the Eagles, this is the mindset you have to have.
Right.
Like there's no one's coming in here. There's not a TO coming in here to screw this up. He won't allow it. He has too much, the room has too much respect for him, and he won't allow it. And to say that about a guy who's 24?
He's 24 years old.
Is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And every veteran on that team respects him and is ready to make another push towards a championship with him.
Yeah.
And that's, again, when you're starting at it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. And he'll turn 25 during next season. But let me run through the contract and then we'll jump to the draft. So this year his cap hit is $6 million. His dead cap's $110 million. We don't have to worry about that because they're not sending him anywhere. Next year his cap hit is $13 million. $13.5 million. His dead cap's 104. They're not sending him anywhere. It's not a big deal. 2025, the cap hit jumps to $21.7 million, which is still just
right.
Yeah. And his dead cap's like $90 million. Again, not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
2026, $31 million, which is about where I felt like we were gonna be.
Yeah.
And his dead cap $69 million. And then in 2027, it jumps to 45, which again feels like if you're a franchise quarterback in today's football, today's NFL, that makes sense. Dead cap hit comes about even now, about 44 million. And then when you get later into the contract, it's like 54 million is the cap hit. But the dead cap drops to 24, and then the following year it's 34 million, and the dead cap drops to 8. Now, here's what we know about Howie. That money later in his contract is going to get spread out.
Yeah.
The other thing we know about Howie is that some of what we see here won't matter down the line for the reason that I just explained, but also because the cap is going to continue to rise every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Howie made this deal knowing that the cap is going to keep rising.
Mm-hmm.
So these numbers aren't going to be as intimidating as they are in 2027, 2028. And honestly, even then, Jalen's only going to be 30.
Yeah.
And the way that he takes care of his body, now he doesn't as much on the field, but in terms of the way he takes care of it off the field,
yeah, well,
he could have a nice career. He could last till he's 35 years old.
And you have to think that the running will eventually
stop,
get less and less.
Right.
Again, he's being leaned on the most in that aspect of his game now because it's where he is athletically and where he was developmentally. We didn't know he could be this kind of passer.
Yeah, he's developing.
And he still has areas to improve in that regard.
Right.
So the hope is that, right, he gets less and less reliant on that.
Yeah.
And the rest of the skills continue to improve.
Now, real quickly, let me just do a comparison because this makes me laugh. This is fun for me. Jalen Hurts in 2023 cap hit $6.1 million. Daniel Jones, $21 million.
Yeah.
2024, $13.5 million. Daniel Jones, $45 million.
Jeez.
2025, $21.7 million. Daniel Jones, $39. 2026, $31.7 million. Daniel Jones, $56.5 million. That is hilarious. Hilarious. And I've seen Giant fans coming into the comments of that saying like, well, you're not talking about 2027. Yeah, because we have Howie Roseman. We don't worry about 2028. We're sorry that you went through like 17 GMs in the last 5 years, but we're good with our one who's
and then signed
prolific.
A worthless quarterback.
So there's that. All right, draft time.
All right.
So let me start with the undrafted free agents that I came across. Well, we don't know that they're undrafted. I'm making the assumption they end up there.
Right.
I'm going to start with one that I don't foresee the Eagles getting. I'm just really interested. I feel like this guy end up anywhere from like late day 2 to undrafted. Quarterback from Georgia, Stetson Bennett.
Oh.
Because of the arrest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious to see where Stetson Bennett goes. And I also don't think he's really that good. So like, I'm honestly wondering, like, is a team thinking, well, he's got the winner mentality. He's won 2 national titles. Do we draft him or do we try and grab him in undrafted free agency? My prediction is undrafted free agency.
He's going to be a backup probably for a while.
Ian Book was drafted. So
yeah, that's fair. It's a fair comp. Who knows, right?
Ian Book doesn't have a natty. So I'm just saying. All right. So 3 guys that I'd keep an eye on for the Eagles. The first one being a guy I mentioned last week. And I think I had him. I'm just looking at my notes. I had him drafted in the 7th.
Okay.
Running back out of Minnesota, Muhammad Ibrahim.
Okay.
1,665 yards last year for Minnesota. It feels like a guy that if they decide not to get to draft running back, which at this point would just shock me with all the rumors that are floating out there, this would be a guy I could see them taking in undrafted free agency. Even if they draft there, it could make sense for them. So Muhammad Ibrahim, keep an eye on that.
All right, there you go.
Truman Jones, a defensive end from Harvard, who logged 5.5 sacks his senior year, could be a fun little go grabber. I don't think there's much there in terms of like star potential, but there's probably rotational potential there. I always love like Ivy League guys who make it. There's a dude from Army that I'm kind of obsessed with, but he's going to get drafted. So
all right.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. And then the last guy kind of came around at the combine, so he might get drafted, but like, I don't know that the 40 times enough to get him drafted. It just intrigues me a lot. Darius Davis, wide receiver at TCU, finished with the second best 40 at the combine, a 4.36. So for me, I'm sitting here and I'm saying this feels like a guy that if they don't draft wide receiver, which again, keep seeing wide receiver coming up. Could be a fun little ticket.
Sounds like a guy the Raiders will take in the second round because he got the second fastest 40 time.
Actually, that's very fair. That's very fair. So again, Truman Jones, defensive end from running back from Minnesota, Darius Davis, wide receiver from TCU. And just for fun, he's not going to be an Eagle, but Stetson Bennett. All right, I did the same thing as I did last week. I did a no trade draft. I did a draft and I did a Bijan draft.
Okay.
What do you want?
I think the trade draft is becoming more and more likely. So why don't we go there?
Listen, this might have been my all-time greatest trade draft.
Wow. Okay.
Honestly, right. I don't think I could repeat this if you gave me 1,000 more attempts. I could not reincarnate this draft.
I can't wait.
It is special. Regz, let me just start by saying somehow I ended up with 8 top 100 picks.
All right.
8 top 100 picks. It was truly unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Okay. So it started off with getting the number 10 and just saying, you know what, this is my trade draft. So I'm going to go with whatever I feel like, and I'm going to trade number 10. I will tell you this, Bijan was available.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what, I'm going to deal number 10 and I'm just going to see, I'm going to see what happens. So I traded number 10 and Quez Watkins to the Jets for number 15 and number 43. Okay.
Okay.
Then I got to number 15 and I was like, I don't know how I feel about what's here right now. Although Bijan was still there.
That's wild.
And I got a trade offer from the Giants. Number 15. And they wanted another pick from this year's draft for number 25, number 57, and number 89. I didn't want to give up another pick from this draft. So I countered with number 15 and a 2024 second, our second. I did not offer the Minnesota second because I think the Minnesota second is going to be too good.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if it was the Minnesota second. Yeah, I think it was the Minnesota second. Whatever other second we have, I can't remember right now. But I offered our second because I feel like we're going to finish later.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 25, 57, and 89 from the Giants. Okay. Don't know why they agreed to that, but they did. I did pick at number 25 right in front of the Cowboys. And I got Bijan Robinson.
He was at 25.
Which, Regz, I got to be honest with you. If he makes it past Regz, I'm going to tell you right now, if he makes it past the Eagles at 10, I just don't know that other teams are going to do it.
There's just no way he goes that far down.
If you look at teams that are picking after them, every single one of these teams has a running back. Every one of them.
That's
everyone.
Wild.
If he gets to the Cowboys, he absolutely comes off the board. But I don't think it happens. The Titans, I'm not going to go through them. I'm just going to name maybe the Texans, but the Texans have a million needs.
Yeah.
Right? Titans aren't taking them. Packers aren't taking them. Patriots, they're not taking. You think Bill Belichick's taking a running back at 13, 14? The Jets aren't going to take him. They have Breece Hall. The Commanders aren't going to take him. The Steelers aren't. The Lions aren't. The Bucks aren't. The Seahawks, maybe. But the Seahawks have so many holes. The Chargers aren't. The Ravens aren't. The Vikings, if they decide to trade Dalvin Cook, maybe take him. The Jaguars will not take him. And then the Giants. And then the Cowboys. If the Eagles do not take him, he could drop all the way to 25.
That would be insane.
He could drop to the Cowboys.
That would be insane.
That's one reason I feel like the Eagles could potentially take Bijan at 10.
Yeah.
They don't want him to get to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So he made it to 25. Okay. I got to 30. I didn't want to trade out of 30. All right. I was not interested in. So I did not trade out of 30. Peter Skoronski, the tackle from Northwestern, was there. I took him.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I've heard a lot of that.
But I've heard a lot of that at 10.
Oh, yeah. Like
He dropped a 30 in this mock.
I feel like would be possibly
That's
more
what I'm saying.
ridiculous.
I don't know that I could have repeated this if you gave me 1,000 tries.
Yeah.
It just so happened that this is the way it turned out. So number 43 that I got from the Jets, I kept BJ Ojulari, who I talked about last week. The edge from LSU was still there, which is possible. He could still be there at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Took him. So far, running back, tackle to replace Lane, and BJ Ojulari. Edge out of LSU. Unbelievable. So then I took I got to 57 and traded out again. I didn't love what was there, so I traded 57 to the Raiders, as well as our pick to Tennessee from Tennessee next year, which was a 6th round pick. And I got number 70, number 100, and number 207. So I got 3 more picks for 1 pick this year and 1 pick next year. Jump to number 62, Clark Phillips III, a cornerback out of Utah, who could work into the slot a little bit, but would be a fun project for them. He's got starter written all over him in the future for boundary, but could be fun to sort of develop as we go. Then we got to 70, the pick that I got from the Raiders, and took Siaka Ika from Baylor, defensive tackle. So sort of took this draft as a way to like cover all the needs.
Yeah.
89. I took Tyler Scott, wide receiver from Cincinnati, who has a ton of speed, could end up in the slot, runs really good routes, is small, but thought it was a fun little pick there. Number 94, which is the Eagles pick, Chris Smith II, safety from Georgia. Maybe nothing more than like a replacement level, but could end up becoming a pretty good starter at some point. And then took, with pick 100, one of the picks from the Raiders, Cameron Latu, tight end from Alabama. So the top 100, Robinson, Skoronski, Ojulari, Phillips, Ika, Scott, Smith, Latu. Took a running back, tackle, edge rusher, corner, defensive tackle, wide receiver, safety, and tight end. Still had 3 more picks and took projects. Took a guard from Oregon State, Brandon Kipper. Got to get Stoughton somebody to work with, you know? Took Cam Jones, a linebacker from Indiana, who is like one of those like 4-year guys, right? And then took a punter from Rutgers with the 248th pick, Adam Karsick. So fun little mock, never going to happen. You're never getting Bijan Robinson, Peter Skoronski, BJ Ojulari. Oh, no, like that. Yeah. If that happens, Regz,
that's insane.
We're doing a show tomorrow.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
If we get any kind of pull,
yeah.
If they come out of the draft tomorrow with anything like that, now we won't have a 2nd round pick tomorrow, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So do you want the Bijan draft or the no trade?
No trade draft.
All right, the no trade draft. Number 10, Jalen Carter was there, so we took him.
All right,
that was great.
Perfectly happy with that.
Well, yeah, we can deal with that. Number 30 rolled around, and the corner from Georgia, Keely Ringo, was still there, and I've never mocked at a point where he was still hanging around at 30. So I absolutely took him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a future pick, is what that is. Because he's got all kinds of star potential.
Yeah.
62 jumped, and I took Antonio Johnson, safety from A&M, who is going to be a starter in this league and a really good one. He's a top 50 player. Somehow these guys all kind of fell like right into my lap.
All right.
And then at 97, I took a running back. Zach Evans, the running back from Ole Miss.
Okay.
I think he's like a middle of the road starter, but with this line, that was kind of Miles Sanders.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like I love Miles, but I don't think Miles is going to be what he was here in Philly.
No,
this
you
year in
have to account
Carolina.
for, yeah.
You know, so, and then I took Martin Mapu, a linebacker from Sacramento State, at 219, and Josh Weil, tight end out of Cincy, who I was shocked to still see there because everything I've read about him says he's going to be a starter. Like he's going to start in the NFL. So I actually really loved this draft. If this was their draft, we'd feel really good. 3 future starters on defense.
Yeah.
And Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo, and Antonio Johnson. And then a really talented running back. I don't know enough about Mapu to make a declaration, but a potential starter in Josh Weil at tight end. So, like, I felt really good about that draft. So, yeah, felt good about it.
I like it. I like it.
Which leaves us with the Bijan draft. And I will tell you, you can look at my note card. Can you see it? Is it too bright?
It's too bright.
Okay. It actually, if I tilt it a little bit, you might be able to see the lines here.
A little bit.
Okay. So I did the Bijan draft first.
Okay.
And then I did the no trade draft right after that. And then I'll take a picture and post it. And then I did the trade draft last. So I had no idea going into the trade draft that I was going to be able to land Bijan. Yeah. And this is on PFF's simulator. So anybody can go in and do it. It's free. So I had no idea that was going to happen. It just sort of worked out that way. Now, I did take liberties in the Bijan draft that I was going to be traded. Did not do that last week.
Yeah.
And I told you how much the Bijan draft sucked because of it.
Yeah.
So I did do like 2 trades in this draft. Okay. Nothing like I did in the other one.
All right.
But I still did it. So Bijan, we got at 10. Traded out of 30 and went back to 35. Give me a second. I got to remember who I traded with. The Colts for number 35 and 138. Traded 30 and 219. So I gave up a 7. 35, BJ was still there. So I took Ojulari there too. So we got Ojulari and Robin 2 drafts.
Okay.
Today. 65 rolled around. I took Marvin Mims, wide receiver from Oklahoma, who fits really nicely in. So went with Mims, and then went at 124 defensive tackle from LSU, Jacqueline Roy. And 138, the pick from the Colts, Byron Young, defensive tackle from Alabama. So went back-to-back defensive tackles in the middle of the draft. 157, which was the other pick. Or I'm sorry, I traded out of 94. I skipped that. I apologize. I traded out of 94.
How dare you?
And back to 124 to the Ravens. So 94 and a 2024 fourth round pick to the Ravens for 124 and 157. So 124 was the first Ravens pick. That was the LSU pick, Jacqueline Roy. And then Byron Young was the other Colts pick. 157 took Trey Dean, safety out of Florida. And the reason I took him is I was reading about him. One thing I came to learn was that he's a versatile defensive back.
Okay.
He doesn't lock into safety. we know how much Howie loves versatile defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
He loves a guy that can play in the slot from the safety position. Malcolm was that guy. We had that guy last year. He is not to be named because I'm still mad at him for not coming back. But Jalen Mills was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he loves versatile defensive backs. So Trey Dean could be a target for them. And then I went back to Old Faithful at 248 and took Malik Cunningham, the quarterback from Louis, who I took last week in the draft. I just feel like they're going to take a back at some point in this draft. So obviously, I think we'd prefer the trade draft.
Yeah.
I still don't. It's not happening.
It would be unbelievable.
If I had to pick between these two, though, I'd probably take the no trade draft.
I agree with you. That's what I was just about to say.
Carter, Ringo, Johnson, Evans, and
those three
Wild
defensive players.
Oh,
with
that'd
what
be
the offense already looks like.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then Zach Evans, like, he's going to be a starter in this league. It's just he's going to be like your average running back.
Yeah.
He's going to be like an 800-yard guy, which behind this line could translate to 1,000.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's where we landed. Tomorrow we find out after so much anticipation. Here's what I'm going to ask. Will they trade out of one? Will they trade out of both? Or will they trade out of none?
So I, interestingly enough, have been hearing that there's potential they might trade up to get Carter to maybe 7 or 8 or wherever.
Which would probably swap picks, and I'd have to look at the value charts. You might be able to get away with next year's 3rd or 4th.
Yeah. So that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'll be one trade. I don't know where it's going to be. I think it mostly depends on how number 10 shakes out.
What's still
and
there?
What they decide to do.
Yeah. Here's my prediction. Trade up from 10, trade out of 30.
Okay. I think if I had to pick something, I think that's also my most likely scenario.
Trade up from 10, trade out of 30 is what I'm predicting. I think Bijan ends up a Cowboy, unfortunately.
That would be tough.
Even if you get Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Gonna be hard to watch for the next couple of years. Having to face Bijan Robinson and Saquon Barkley 4 times a year is
that's no fun.
Gonna be a bear.
That's no fun.
It's gonna be, and honestly, the Commanders don't have a bad one themselves. So
well, yeah,
not gonna be fun. All right, quick fixated.
All right.
I just want to go back to Jalen and speak to what he's been able to do in such a short time. Not many athletes come to this city and do what Jalen Hurts done, especially playing quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Donovan McNabb brought this team close to the promised land like 8 times. And is still booed. Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to say much more than that.
No.
I think Jalen is so different. Even from Nick Foles. He's different in a way that's hard to describe. Jalen is the type of different that intrigues people. He's just quiet enough to make you wonder, is he actually who we think he is? But he's loud enough to empty that thought out of your mind. Jalen's a type of special that you might only see once, twice, 3 times in your fandom. Fortunately for us, Regz, we've seen Jalen types a few more times than that. I'd argue Joel is that type. I'd argue Bryce is that type. Bryce is a little different than Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have those moments of like media glory.
Yeah.
In the way that Jalen does. He has moments of on the field glory the way that Jalen does. Jimmy was that way. You know, we got to experience that. So we've gotten it a few more times than most fan bases get. But we're getting it from Jalen at a different point in his career than we've gotten it from these other guys. We didn't get it from Joel until like year 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
We got it from Bryce, but in a different way, like the cleats, the bowing to the crowd. It's not the same, right? And we didn't get it. You know, I think maybe one guy I didn't mention got it from all the time in every way was Brian Dawkins.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But even that was different.
Mm-hmm.
That was an in-your-face.
Yeah.
He said it, you listened. He did it, you watched. Jalen is, he said it, you think about it, he does it, you wonder. And he's special, man. He's special. And we're fortunate that after all this time, I thought I was confident about Carson. This feels in a way more realistic to me than Carson did. Jalen feels like the type of guy that there's no doubt has the grasp of the guys that are supposed to follow him. Carson felt like he had the grasp of half of the guys who were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen has the entire locker room and his coach. Every time you go to that locker room, Jalen's the dude they're all circled, including Nick Sirianni. Jalen Hurts was on the stage with the 4 legendary Eagles that are rostered after the NFC title game. Jalen Hurts single-handedly kept them in the Super Bowl after his miscue.
Mm-hmm.
This was the right thing to do. If you would have told me this 3 years ago, literally today to the date, I would have been mad at you. We might not have been friends anymore. Because I was so blinded by Carson Wentz that I couldn't see the greatness that was Jalen Hurts. And now I sit back and I'm like, how did we end up with this guy? Not the player, the human. How did we end up with this human being? He's everything that an athlete has to be in Philadelphia. I feel like all of our athletes have little pieces of it, and we're like, that's the guy, that's the guy, that's the guy. Regz, I'm going to say something that I think people are going to disagree with. I think this is the first guy that I think is fully Philadelphia. Since Brian Dawkins. I don't know that we've had that guy. And I know people are screaming at me right now. Well, what about Chase? No, I don't think that his way of talking to the fan base is this. Jimmy was the guy that talked to the fan base. And I love Chase. I think this is the most Philly guy we have from this. Owns it. You know he means it when he says that money doesn't matter, championships do, that comes from a place of like actual wholehearted full belief. I haven't felt that about a player since Brian Dawkins. That's what I'm fixated on tonight.
I love it.
To our true Philadelphia hero, Jalen Hurts.
I cannot wait to see how people respond to that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it too. I can't wait for my phone to blow up. And what about Chase Utley? Chase Utley ran so hard to first base, man. So did I, guys. So did I.
I mean, the fact that you left yourself off the list, might be the biggest mistake.
I mean, when it comes to Philadelphia sports fans, Just saying.
Just saying.
I feel like I'm up there.
I feel like I agree with you.
I feel like I'm there. I feel like I belong in that category. Maybe that's my next fixated.
There you go.
How me,
Yeah.
Mike Azzolina, I, myself, define me as a Philadelphia sports fan.
There you go.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks so much. This was a long one. We had a blast though. Like we really went longer in some places we didn't anticipate, but well worth the conversation. We hope you stuck with us through the whole thing. If you did and you're still here, click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on your podcast platform and you've already not done so, click subscribe, follow, and rate us. Please freaking rate us. And then go into social media. Start on Instagram. Follow at B&B Podcast. Then do the same thing on. Follow us at the Phixated Pod on Twitter as well. You can follow me at the Mic Drop 5 and follow Regz at Big Regz with a Z. Then go over to Facebook and follow the Phixated fan page there with a PH. And then you can go ahead and click on the merchandise link in the description below. As always, we are so appreciative of you taking the time to hang out with us and talk a little bit of Philly sports. We'll be back. Regz and I will have to talk. We'll see what happens with the schedule for the next round of the NBA playoffs, and we'll put out an episode previewing what I anticipate to be Sixers and Celtics.
Yeah.
In a battle to the death.
Yeah. That'll be a quick one. We'll focus just on the Sixers and
it'll only be
preview,
the Sixers.
Yeah, and we'll preview the series and then we'll.
And what I'll probably do is come back with some recaps of the draft as we go.
Absolutely.
Quick snip videos that we can put on social media and stuff like that. Just my reactions to those. So if it's Bijan, just expecting to be screaming.
I can't wait.
As much as I don't want him, I do want him. Yeah. So, all right, everybody, we appreciate you so much. What do I do? Well, the Sixers don't play yet, so we're going to go with Go Phillies and Howie. Get it right.
There you go. We believe in you, Howie.
Oh, my God. Deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.